Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Today's guest is another sub 30-year-old agent who is simply killing it. This Flagler College grad is coming up on her 4-year anniversary in real estate. She was recently recognized by the Jacksonville Business Journal as one of the top real estate agents in Northeast Florida. In 2023, Berkshire Hathaway Homeservices Florida Network Realty recognized her in the Leading Edge Society. We'll find out what that's all about. She'll be a force in St. Augustine real estate in decades to come. Let's welcome this third-generation real estate agent, Miss Taylor Johnson, to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome. Came halfway across the world in the last 2 days, really, right?
Just yesterday.
Yeah. Traveling back, she was over in Portugal and Morocco and had some flight challenges. I don't know. When you texted me yesterday and you said you'd been up for the last 40 hours, I was feeling your pain because by that time you're like getting a headache and you're like, yeah.
Starting to feel a little funky.
And then to have, you said you were with a girlfriend, so you guys split up. She had to take her flights, so you're by yourself for all that time, sitting in this airport. Like, I mean, and I can imagine as a guy, but as a woman, you'd like to go find a corner. Maybe you can lay your head against the wall for a little bit, but you gotta watch yourself.
You do.
Yeah.
You do. And really, the thing that was on my mind the most was the closing that I had scheduled yesterday. I was just working against the clock to try to figure out how I'm going to get back in time to be able to.
And you went right to the closing from the airport? Is that so? And you made it on time from over 40 hours of travel across one pond, the Atlantic Ocean. So, well, we're glad you're back here safe. Really want to dig into you. It was always amazed me since doing the show and your episode like 211 is the amount of sub 30-year-old really the agents that are killing it, just whatever it is. And I want to dig into your 4 years and what you've been doing. And hopefully the listeners want to get some inspiration from you, maybe some tips, things that you did. I'm sure your girlfriends ask you all the time, should I be a real estate agent? I had Demi Judd on last week, and she loved that question. Holding her phone. I have a nice reel on it if you want to go on the Instagram where Demi's explaining to her girlfriends about being a real estate agent, what it takes, and the lifestyle that you have to endure behind the scenes.
Right.
Yeah, that the HGTV does not actually show you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or Bravo or those other channels. So, you're not from St. Augustine, though.
No, not originally. No.
Tell us where you're from.
So I am from a small town in Minnesota, Orono, Minnesota. Grew up there my whole life. That's where my entire family is. But, I was lucky enough to travel quite a bit growing up with my family, and I always knew the second I could, I wanted to live by the beach. So when I was making plans for college, for me, it was, it was a 3-mile radius from campus to beach, and that was Flagler College, University of San Diego, Hawaii Pacific. It was a very small pool, and
that was your search mechanism.
That was my
miles to the beach.
It really was, and I visited St. Augustine. And it was before my first night. I just knew that's where I wanted to be, was Flagler College in St. Augustine. There was no question about it.
Wow.
And I committed.
Where had you traveled before that got you attached to the beach? What beach was it that you, like you said, you traveled? Someone in Minnesota grew up there and never had been to the beach, wouldn't obviously have a desire for the beach. Where was it that actually got you?
It was actually Costa Rica. My family went there several years
Mm-hmm.
in a row, and I just fell in love with that beach life, the simplicity of it, the slowness of it, and the happiness of it.
Yeah.
And, we started going to Costa Rica when I was 8 or 9 years old and went every year consecutively for about 6 years, and I was just hooked.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, you talk about St. Augustine, the locals, the local color, that's there. I mean, we know our tourists come in and out. That's how they drive. Which many coastal towns, that's what the tourist, the beach is the sale. Whether they're coming in and spend their money in the restaurants and things like that. But when you really Flagler, so downtown St. Augustine. Tell us about just your years. I mean, you probably just the first day you were already sold, but I imagine the more you stayed there, the more you started going into the little shops and started meeting the local people, you got a little more attached.
I did. I fell in love with St. Augustine every day that I was going to school there. I mean, I just remember walking to class and just being amazed that that was the campus and that was the city that I got to live in. And that feeling never went away.
Right.
Over 4 years. And it's a small private school. When I went there, it was about 2,500 kids. So very intimate, and the class sizes were small. So I really got to know my professors on a personal level. It was easy to connect with more than just the campus, but the community here in St. Augustine. And that's what made the transformation of making just Flagler College and where I'm studying for school to actually making St. Augustine start to feel like my home.
Right.
Was those connections throughout the community.
Did you stay in the college housing, or you just rent an apartment? Yeah, you did.
First year,
yeah.
Stayed at Ponce de Leon, the famous old hotel. It was so beautiful. They've got to be some of the, best college dorms in the United States. I mean, we were spoiled rotten.
Right.
And then my sophomore year, I moved off of campus. Actually, my parents bought a house on Volano Beach for me and my roommates. And they owned it for about 2 months until Hurricane Irma hit.
Oh, no.
So that was my first experience here with hurricanes, and the house was flooded. It was
right.
2.5 feet of flooding, and, went through that experience firsthand. I was the only one down in Florida, and little did I know that would really give me a lot of empathy for my real estate career coming up, Now I'm grateful.
Well, I imagine, it's something I don't think I've ever really drilled down to, but I mean, we get a lot of these people that are from Midwest, Northeast, or whatever, come down, and between alligators and hurricanes, that's their two fears of Florida, right?
It is.
What are some of the things that you express? What are you just, for the agents that are out there listening, what are some of the things that you've been asked and, concerns that people have with hurricane, especially because you do have sold some beachfront property?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The way I handle the flood risk is I really just think it's a person-to-person situation. I work with some investors that could care less about the flooding. They're like, Taylor, that's why we get flood insurance. We don't care, If the numbers work, the numbers work. Then I have other people that if the property is even in a flood zone at all, they want absolutely nothing to do with it. So I always present the facts. What is the flood zone? What's the elevation if we have an elevation certificate? If there's been any past water intrusion, and present the facts and let my customers make the decision based on their comfort level, because everybody is different. Me personally, after experiencing it, I would not buy a property that has flooded in the past. I'm okay with a flood zone, but if it's already flooded, me personally.
Well, what's interesting, I had Cindy Hayden on. Actually, she's had her on a couple times. One, I did a show about her, like we're doing with you today, and then another show because she's been on NAR's insurance. She was the chair in 23, and running for secretary for Florida Realtors. So you vote for Cindy. But she said one of the things they don't or didn't account for was rainfall. And obviously recently in South Florida, last month, there was a lot of rain and a lot of flooding. And, that's not counted as a flood zone. And a lot of those houses that got flooded were not even in a flood zone. And I think the greatest advice was by one of the staff at St. John's. I was at the board years ago, and they said, if you live in Florida, you should have some form of flood insurance. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially, I own 2 properties that are not in a flood zone. They've never flooded, but I'm still opting in for my flood insurance, even though it's not required, because at the end of the day, it's pretty minimal for the what if.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Even if you paid in it for 10 years, that one claim would easily eat up what you paid in for, because you're not in a flood zone. So, your policy's not as much. But what have you seen here in really the last, 24 months, as far as, when your buyers are looking at these properties and going to buy a property and then getting an insurance quote? Have you seen some that have knocked them off their chair? Or?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In particular, in the last 6 months, I've seen it affect more deals than I have in my 4 years here. It's just increasing, and it's throwing off people's numbers of what they can afford. It's no longer just looking at your P&I and your down payment. You need to be looking at your insurance at the beginning of this process, because I just had a deal a couple weeks ago on Volano Beach, and the inspector couldn't find hurricane clips. So it took what should have been $8,000 a year for insurance to $12,000 a year. And the buyers almost backed out. Luckily, I just hired someone to come out. We took the soffits off the roof. We were able to expose some of those hurricane clips and prove to insurance that, in fact, they are there, save the deal a more, reasonable insurance amount. But it is a huge factor right now, and it has to be done in the beginning, in my opinion.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, from the lending side, it could, especially for a marginal buyer, it can knock them out of being qualified for that home.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't 3 years ago, they say, everyone always asks us, hey, what would a payment look like? Before we even have an insurance quote, we might be able to look at the taxes because those are online, but we're like, we just put a number in there. But now you need to get that number, make the offer,
right away,
and then calling the insurance agent as you're calling the home inspector. Yeah.
Agreed.
Because I think the other thing is too, you want home inspectors that are doing the 4-point and doing the wind mitigation, because the insurance companies need that for every little inch they can give you on the savings. But yeah, I can imagine that 12,000. That house was that on the beach or a block from the beach?
Couple blocks from 2 blocks from the beach,
right.
Close walking distance, right between the Intercoastal and the Atlantic Ocean. So.
I saw this someone put a reel up, and the guy was saying something about, don't spend money on replacing your roof or your hot water heater, or just spending any money on the house per se before listing it. And I replied back to him. I said, well, yeah, that sounds great, but if your roof is 20 years old, it ain't getting insurance. If your hot water heater is 15 years old, you ain't getting insurance. So as a seller, I would think, and I just get your opinion on this, I would think I would want to replace those things, knowing of their age being at beyond the limits, the high limits, because that just gives the seller or the buyer a reason to get out of the transaction when they go and get an insurance quote. Whether or not you're willing to replace it or not, so they get the insurance quote, they may be out and don't even want to talk to you again. Versus if you had the roof replaced, you have the hot water heater, or were willing to put the roof in escrow or whatever, and they can get it, new roof as soon as the house closed, whatever the situation is. You want that up front. Would you agree? So the buyers aren't finding reason.
I 100% agree with that, in particular in this market that we're in. In COVID, no, you didn't have to get a new roof or update the hot water heater. But now there's a lot less cash on hand by people, and the inventory is way up and the transaction count is down. So you need to appeal to as many buyers as possible. And if your roof is 15 years old, 17 years old, you are already telling people that want to finance with a loan that they can't buy your house.
Right.
So now more than ever, in my experience in real estate in Florida, I'm advising my sellers do those things up front. Even more so, I've done a lot of pre-inspections, pre-listing inspections where we get an
I'm a
inspection.
pre-listing inspection fan. I think that's the thing everyone should do.
I think it's so smart.
Yeah.
It's so smart. You do it up front. You know exactly what to expect. You can choose what to fix, all of it, none of it, and you can disclose these items. Nobody's blindsided. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's money well spent.
Well, we saw over the, in the 4 years you've been an agent, we have seen some of these people, now the inventory's grown over the last, 6 months, I say it started to go up, if it's been that long. But prior to that, with inventory so minimalized, people were settling on homes. And while under contract, they might have been 2 weeks in there. And if you give them a reason because of the inspection report, there wasn't a light fixture. Oh, I don't like that. I'm out. Because a lot of times in those 2 weeks, they found another home that they really did like.
Right.
And so that when they found the reason to get out of the contract they were in, that was their ticket out.
And now, in May, just a month ago, inventory was up 60% from last May. And the transaction count is down 10% from last May. So that just shows that there's so much more competition out there. 2 years ago, the inventory was so low that, like you said, buyers were settling because there wasn't a lot available. Well, now there's a lot more available and there's a lot less people buying. So if you want to sell your house, you better start checking off the boxes for those buyers.
Are you finding the buyers you've been working with, say in the last 90, 120 days, or even really probably in the last year, they really want more of a turnkey? They don't want a fixer-upper. Fixer-uppers are, there's people that want fixer-uppers, and there is a lot of money around, investors around here, that if they see any sort of upswing that they can make 20 grand, they're in there fixing that house up and reselling it and making that 20 grand. But for the home buyers, the end consumer, they really want pretty much turnkey walk in. They don't want to have to do anything.
Absolutely. Yeah. People, and like you said, two totally different buyers, right? Mm-hmm. Like I have my investors on one hand, they want there to be work needed, right? That's what they're looking for. They're looking for the work and trying to get a good deal because of it. Then you have your average end consumer home buyer who doesn't have the extra cash on hand that we saw 2-3 years ago when the market was crazy, because everything is getting more expensive. Insurance, property taxes went up. So their cash on hand is going down. And now when they see a renovation, they don't see an opportunity. They see a fear of being able to come up with the additional cash that's going to be needed for a renovation. Right. So turnkey for the average consumer right now is what's selling and is what's moving quickly. I think people are still willing to overpay right now for something that is turnkey and completely renovated and all the big things are done. And underpaying for things that need work. My listings right now, I have 9 of them. The ones that are moving quickly are the ones that are turnkey and ready to roll. The ones that need big cosmetic updates are the ones that are sitting a little bit longer.
What do you do now when you put those out in the MLS? All the lender, we all have renovation loans and so forth, but the upper echelons of these lenders and banks, they feel that product is underutilized. Why do you think that might be?
Underutilized?
Yeah, because you can buy a house with a renovation loan.
Right.
Like you said, that even if it's, because I'm sure, even if it's a house that just needs upgrades, it was built 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever, or occasionally, I'm sure in St. Augustine, you run across these houses that were built in the 70s with the green countertops and all that good stuff. And doing a renovation loan, to upgrade those things, there's energy efficient renovation loans, there's many different products anyone can use, and they can buy a house with it. Hey, if we do these renovations, the house will be worth that much more, assuming they don't have cash, and they can borrow against what that house subject to those renovations would be based off that value. But
but we're not seeing a lot of
We're not seeing a lot of that. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I think interest rates have something to do with that.
Yeah.
You know, on a renovation loan, you're going to be paying
You're going to pay a little bit more.
and consumers are already a little bit concerned about where the rates are right now. So to have an extra percent or 1.25% for the renovation loan is definitely a factor in that.
Okay.
And from the listing side, I think that feels like a bigger risk from a seller's perspective, even though it might not be. I mean, I know a lot of my contractors love the renovation loans because
Right.
they know they're always going to get paid.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. Well, you think some of the challenge, like it sounds like you have, being in St. Augustine, imagine selling some of these older homes, you need to have reliable contractors on your speed dial. I don't think the average agent does. And then, because not only because maybe they didn't search them out, and the reason why they're not searching out because there's not that many. And because there's so much new construction going on, a lot of these companies are just, sending their guys over there. They got, painting jobs, they got roofing jobs that are just, forever because the builders can't build the houses fast enough. Where the renovation, the quality of the contractor you're getting is a little more difficult. And then are they going to show up?
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
There are a lot of contractors, just not that many good ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I feel really lucky in that sense. I feel I've done some trial and error, and now I've got such a solid team of my subcontractors, from plumbers to electricians to my drywall guys. And I just finished doing a flip of my own, and I needed a team to get it done, and we got it done in 4 months.
Wow.
And went really smooth and everybody time. But where I'm sitting now, I've got some great contacts.
Right.
And,
How has that changed your real estate? I want to dig in a little bit of your third generation, but you're not from here, so I imagine your other generation sold houses in Minnesota.
still are. Grandpa and Dad still selling away in Minnesota.
But you've expanded your. Are they doing flips and stuff? Has your dad done that over the years?
He has.
He has.
Yep. So since I've been little Taylor, just a little girl, I watched firsthand, my family build opportunity and wealth through real estate, through renovations and flips and rentals and buying and selling. So, as long as I can remember, that's what I've seen in real estate. And, I came here and did it on my own, and I've got a little different style than my dad, but a lot of similarities too.
What's the difference in style? Explain that to me, because it sounds like it's a subject at the holiday dinners.
We've got a lot of similarities. I think we're very honest and to the point kind of people. My dad might be a little harsher than I am, I would say. Like, I'm a little softer and more people person, and he might be a little more numbers and a little more
analytical.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. So, but I think, maybe someday we'll be a team together.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, I mean, there's no doubt there's teams around St. Augustine, husband and wife, or sometimes, but you do need that. You need that person to come in, because if you get these engineers from Northrop Grumman, they want that analytical situation.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think too, my dad, I mean, he's my favorite person, and he's my inspiration in this business, and huge producer. He's in the top 1% of our nation, but the guy, he doesn't care, like, he doesn't dress up. He doesn't pretend to be.
That's shocking, being up from up north. Now, you get that from St. Augustine.
No, I've seen him show up to $7 million appointments wearing Crocs and hunting gear, and it just works. Everybody has.
Well, he's been doing it a
their
few
own
decades,
style.
it sounds like. He has a brand.
Yes, he doesn't need a suit anymore, I guess.
Well, hopefully he's watching. Maybe we'll get him on long distance. We'll have to do a long distance. From that standpoint. So with this experience, seeing Dad do it, so it opened your eyes early to doing it. And this is something I think, having a lot of the top agents on, some do it, some don't. But what has been your growth in the industry? I mean, you saw it, so you actually knew it could be done, but actually experiencing yourself, like doing this recent flip and having that experience. And then when you have that client, to be able to talk or have, a hands-on perspective of, what it takes, or, like I said, doing the rentals. And I mean, you probably get asked all the time, Airbnb at the beach and stuff like that. The fact that you're have expanded your thing, other than just saying, hey, I'm just a residential real estate agent and that's all I'm doing, and I've got my own house. You've got rental property. It sounds like you're flipping houses. You're involving yourself in other real estate type transactions. Yeah. How's that grown your business?
I think I just understand it on a different level. I'm not standing here on a podium telling you how to do it just from sitting in the sidelines.
Right.
I'm here doing this right along with you, experiencing this with you firsthand, and going through the ups and downs and the stress. And it just gives me such a leg up in being able to do this myself and work through the hiccups, so that I work through all of that for me, and so that my clients don't have to. And I think it's a huge advantage to work with somebody that has an Airbnb and is doing renovations, because they just understand it firsthand.
Yeah. Because there's so many things, you want to do a flip, as the first thing, my wife and I got married, we did a flip, and luckily it was a small one. We were living in Little Rock, Arkansas at the time, actually. So the house, I don't know, was a HUD foreclosure, and we took it over. But, we exposed some problems. Luckily we got, with some luck, thank God, guide us in the right direction. We found solutions that were not expensive. But you can expose some of these flips if you're not knowing you don't know what you're looking at, or you're not working with an agent who has this kind of experience, has an eye for the things that you're looking to do. I mean, you can walk into some nightmares.
Absolutely.
Money pits. Yeah.
And it's a very different need for someone that's looking for home and someone that's looking for an investment to make money on.
Right.
It's two completely different sets of eyeballs, and I can be either or, but there are a lot of agents that only like to work with the end user and the person that wants to make it home, and the family, and
right.
But to have the set of eyes to see the numbers and to be able to look out for them, and the benchmark I use is, if I had this money right now, would I invest it in this property?
Right.
And if I wouldn't, I don't want my customer buying that property either.
Right. Was your goal when you went to Flagler that you were going to go into real estate, or did you have some other aspiration?
Funny enough, because I watched the real estate lifestyle, I almost thought I wanted the opposite. Like a corporate 9 to 5, just like a simple check in, check out,
go to the beach.
Yes, have your weekends off. I thought that seemed really nice. But as my college experience kept progressing and getting closer to graduation, there was nothing else that made sense to me besides real estate. And I knew I didn't want to go back to Minnesota. That would have been the easy way of doing it. Going back to Minnesota, where my family has a big business, they could hand it over to me and get a good jump start. But I wanted to do it here on my own, and St. Augustine is where I align, and I wanted that challenge. To be in a new state where I don't know anybody, where I'm not from, and do it myself.
Your dad's smiling right now if he's watching. When he watches that part, he's going to smile. But
He will.
But St. Augustine is different. St. Augustine, downtown St. Augustine, I'm considered in St. Augustine, but I'm off 210. So if you're selling northwest St. Johns County, where Yeah, there's pretty much standard single family homes, all built in the last 20, 25 years.
Hmm.
But you're working downtown St. Augustine, the beaches, that's a different animal.
It is, and I love it.
Yeah. What is it about, if someone was thinking about getting into real estate and to understand what's the difference between being someone who is living, selling in, the beaches, St. Augustine Beach and the old city and in the that greater area versus Northwest St. John's. What do you think are things that they need to know how you're doing real estate and some of the knowledge that obviously you've been accumulating over the last 4 years?
I think, and this is just generally speaking, still every transaction is different, but I think in the northwest region of St. Johns County, where, like you said, these houses, most of them built in the last 20 years.
In planned urban developments, communities, HOAs.
Exactly. Yeah. You get really used to the same process almost. Yes, every customer is different and every house is a little different, but your process of how you do things can be the same every time, and you get really good at that process.
A lot of times you don't need a survey because you're in the planned urban development and the title company accepts that survey because that's
and the zoning is similar and the timelines are similar and the getting a loan isn't a big deal. It's common, but you get into downtown St. Augustine or the beaches and some of these houses, I've sold houses that are 100 years old. Yeah. When you have a 100-year-old house, everything looks different. What type of loans you can get and what you need from that inspection and what things to look out for and what amount of wood rot is normal versus what is not. And if you need a structural engineer to come out there and then you get into the beaches where you have flooding risks and different histories with different concerns. And to me, that's fun. The reason I love this job is because every day I don't know how it's going to go, right? I don't know what to expect. Yeah. Every day is different, and I like selling houses that have character. I like selling houses that are one of a kind and they don't look like the house next door. That to me is fun. It keeps me on my toes. It forces me to be constantly learning. Nothing surprises me anymore because I've seen,
have you had any, because some of those houses being as old and maybe been in families for 100 years, come across some interesting title issues?
I've been lucky in that sense. I haven't had any crazy issues with title, but I have had a really old house, one that I just sold after closing. I represented the buyer. Mm-hmm. They were doing a huge flip, huge renovation. They were up in the attic and sent me on one of the trusses. There was a carving in there. Uh-oh. And honoring the old seller that had passed away and the ashes.
We're sitting on the...
Yes. So, that's the stuff you see in old houses. That was... Was it the previous...
Was it the previous owner or maybe an owner that was...
It was the previous one and only owner. Oh. Mm-hmm. There was only one. And, that was... Interesting. The first time I had That was the first time.
I thought you were going to say they carved a treasure map in the wood or something.
It could happen.
It could happen.
You never know.
Oh man. Let's talk about your choice, because I think one of the greatest challenges, and I know your girlfriends are always asking you, should they get into real estate and so forth. And I think one of the biggest missteps someone can take, and why 80% of agents, one of the reasons why 80% of the agents never renew 2 years and they're out, is because of the broker they align with. They think, for whatever reason, they choose where they go, and they don't know any better. They only know what they know, and they don't know what they don't know. And how important it is, and to knowing what you know now, and knowing other real estate agents, to really align with how that broker does business, because there's some really good brokers in the old, all through St. Augustine Beach and so forth. They all do business a little differently. You went to Berkshire Hathaway right away. You've been there 4 years. I imagine if you've been there 4 years, you're aligned there. Did you do an investigation, or did you just get lucky?
So I did do an investigation, and I didn't get it right my first time.
Okay.
Actually, my first 3 months only, I worked with a different brokerage in St. Augustine, and it was the opposite of Berkshire Hathaway. It was very small and local. There was only 8 other agents there. A lot of their leads were coming in from online generation, which is really common now. A lot of these new brokerages buy the Zillow leads or Boomtown leads and have different lead generation sources that come through online, and you're cold calling, and it works for a lot of brokerages. And I think most young agents like my age, that's the way they run their business. But for me, coming from my background and being a third generation realtor, I've got a pretty old school outlook on it.
Right.
And to me, real estate is about the relationships. So it only took me a couple of weeks to realize I didn't want to do the online generation. I didn't want to be sitting in an office making call after call after call to people I don't know. I wanted to be in an office that, respects the relationships in this business, and that is Berkshire Hathaway. They are very old school in that sense, and that's what they preach to us as agents, is using our sphere of influence. And that's the way I was taught from my family, is you treat people well, you work really hard, and you be yourself, and you will attract customers that align with who I am. You know, I don't need to be super salesy. I don't need to be somebody that I'm not. I just need to work really hard for people and do the right thing for them. And ever since I switched to Berkshire Hathaway, I've had the space to be able to do that. There's no pressure on me to do any sort of lead generation, and that's what works for me. I play tennis and pickleball, and I'm a member at Marsh Creek, and I have my running club, and I'm involved at Flagler College, and that's where my business comes from. Just being aligned with the things that I genuinely, truly love and enjoy.
Yep.
And it also makes it feel a lot less work. It's a lifestyle.
Well, when you love doing, you're doing it the way you want to do it, and you love what you're doing. Yes, it doesn't feel like work. We don't want to downplay the way those other brokers do business, because there's people who they need obviously, if you probably went there initially thinking, I don't have a sphere, so let me get the online leads, but then started thinking about the way your dad did business, the way your grandfather did business, and that's the way you wanted to do business, and that led you away. So your girlfriends that ask you, do you discuss this in any way? Like, hey, you need to find your niche. You've seen real estate for your whole life. A lot of them haven't.
Right. And I think you're absolutely right, because I'm not downplaying the other business models that have leads, because I know fantastic agents that generate their leads from online, and they are incredible, and they're crushing it and doing a lot of business. And for some of my girlfriends, I would actually recommend going that route. Someone that might not have a sphere here, someone that might not have a lot of community involvement. Having lead generation from online is the perfect way to start your real estate business. And some people also really like and value the structure of, you make phone calls from 8 to 10 a.m. every single day. Some people, that structure is exactly what they need. And other people,
gets them out of bed, gets the day going. Yeah, exactly.
And other people, they are not going to like the structure. They're going to want the autonomy and the freedom. So it's just knowing yourself and your values and how you work most efficiently, and then finding a brokerage that helps you do that, because that's what your brokerage is supposed to do, is help support
How did you find Berkshire Hathaway?
Well, my dad and grandpa worked with Berkshire Hathaway
Okay.
for about 20 years.
Okay.
So I had heard that they might be a good company.
Well, and they're in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I would call that luck that the broker here, or is Berkshire Hathaway really good at drilling that culture into a majority of their? We can't say that every one of their franchises runs, the way to Minnesota or way St. Augustine runs for you, but is Berkshire Hathaway really creating that culture from that national level, or do you find the broker within that office creates that culture?
I think the core values of Berkshire Hathaway are pretty consistent. That they're very well respected,
Mm-hmm.
dominate in luxury, very relationship based, but your actual broker can make or break your experience.
Yeah.
The broker I have here is amazing. The second I met her, I felt at ease and felt like it was a good fit for me.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was with Berkshire Hathaway in Minnesota for 15 years with one broker that he adored, had a great relationship with. She left, new broker came in, and it wasn't a good fit anymore.
Yeah.
So, yes, you do have your company values, and I think Berkshire Hathaway does a good job of staying consistent on their core. But then you have this other layer with the actual broker on site, which will, without a doubt, make or break your experience. The core values are not enough by any means.
I always, I've said it a handful of times in the show, but not recently. I really feel there should be, whether it's at the St. Augustine board, at NEFAR, or any other that wants to put a panel together because there are some brokers that will tell you, I'm going to say Kim Knapp right off the top, she'll tell you to go interview other brokers and then come back to her if you feel there's a fit. She totally understands it, because the last thing any broker wants to do is someone to sign up on her, not realize it's not a good fit and leave, especially in a short period of time. Rips their heart out, especially brokers who are pouring into you. But maybe they're pouring into you is not the way you want to be poured into. It just doesn't match. It's like some different relationships. But to have almost like a panel that these new agents who are going through their initial licensing, they can go and sit down and actually, in front of 3 or 4 brokers, and they're going to tell them different things, how the business is done differently depending on what broker you're done. Because just like every agent does their business differently, whether they're getting online leads or working, organically like you do, it's just, there's so many different ways to do it. And I think a lot of the failure rate of new agents is because they aren't exposed fast enough to realize there's so many different ways, and they're trying to find their way, and time runs out.
You're right. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's not an easy business. I think there is a misconception about that too, of thinking it's a quick, easy way to make big money.
Mm-hmm.
And this job is hard, in particular in the beginning when you start up.
Have you had to crawl up underneath a house yet?
Yeah. A couple times. Yeah, I don't even wear heels anymore because I never know what I'm going to be doing in the attic, under houses, but I think that's what's so fascinating about real estate is there are so many different type of people in this business, and there could be polar opposites, and they're equally as successful. But the successful ones are the ones that find out how to do this business their way. And that's how you find continued success. And that takes time, and it takes trial and error. Most people don't get lucky enough to get it exactly right their very first time.
Yeah.
And it's common to go 6 months, a year when you're first starting and not make any money.
Yeah.
And you've got to have savings lined up or a plan in place to be able to do that, because if you make a transaction in your first 6 months in a traditional way, there's
Mm-hmm.
other brokerages that might give you more opportunity to do so, but in their traditional way, to make a transaction in your first 6 months, you are a star. You're in the top just being able to accomplish that.
So you made the transition after about 3 months in the Berkshire Hathaway. Knowing what you know about real estate, tell us what you were doing at that time to create some business that first year.
Yeah. So for me, the passion is just so genuine. You know, everywhere I go, I'm talking about real estate. And the thing is, people love talking about real estate. It's a great topic that everyone really has some level of knowledge about. So to me,
or at least opinions about.
Or opinions. That's true. Maybe not the knowledge, but the opinions. They are there. Yes. So I think just living, breathing that, you know, every day I was reading about real estate and knowing my statistics and going to the things in my life and opening conversations about them. And like I said before, for me, it's not forcing it. It's doing the things in my life that I love and being who I am and treating people the way they deserve to be treated. And real estate just comes up naturally. You know, people are curious about the topic, and it was my goal to be that person for everyone I know. I want to be the first person they think of when they think about anything real estate related.
Right.
Could be about a rental. It could be about a completely different market. It could have nothing to do with that person buying
or just a general question, maybe not even really buying and selling, but just, you know what, Taylor may not know what that is.
Exactly. Yeah. That was my goal when I started this business. And I think that has served me very well. And I don't like to be a pressure pusher or
let's be more specific though. You just graduated.
Yep.
You're not 3 or 4 months out of graduation, right? We're fall of 20, right? We're pushing our way out of COVID, that type of thing. What is Taylor doing? You know, are you going down to, where are you having these conversations? Where are you running in? Where are you creating the situation where you're running into these people?
Well,
because I imagine a lot of your classmates aren't ready to buy.
Right. No, you're right. And actually, that's just starting, and it's really fun. You know, the classmates are starting. But no, you're exactly right. I created that. I mean, I called every single person in my contacts to let them know I was going into real estate. My first transaction was 1 month after being licensed, and it was someone I met through Flagler College. He was a guest speaker my freshman year, and he owns several construction businesses in the area. I know he has, you know, over 50 properties. I knew that because he came and spoke, and I called him and told him I was going into real estate, and we did a transaction together within my first month of being licensed. Cool. And we did 3 more together that year. My second transaction was one of my professors, whom I also called and let them know, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm graduated. This is what I'm doing. Please let me know if you know of anybody. And just spreading the word. And then
some people would say no shame, but we also go to these trainings and events, and they tell us, why would you want someone to do what you know about real estate, knowing about you and how much you care, and you're going to be thorough and be the best possible agent anyone could get. Why would you want them or allow them to go do a transaction with someone else? Why would you not let them know you're doing the business?
Why would you not let them know?
Yeah, I mean, why would you not reach out to that professor? You know,
right.
I mean, I know there's other Flagler grads that are doing real estate in St. Augustine, and most people would say, oh, yeah, Sadie and Luke, yeah, they're Flagler grads. They probably already know that professor, and he'll probably go with them because they're more experienced, and not make that call.
Right. But I don't know. I just think the way I was raised, because my family is in this business, I was led to believe that I could be successful at anything that I decide I want to be successful at. And that is doing the work, and that is making the calls, and that's being uncomfortable and taking risks and taking chances, and that's comfortable. to me, even though, I mean, some of those conversations were weird. People were like, why are you calling and telling me this? I don't know you that well, you know? But those aren't the ones that I was worried about.
Yeah.
The ones that I was worried about were the ones that were positive and going to help my business, and being here by myself on my own and not having family or peers that are ready to buy. I knew I was going to have to be uncomfortable and take the risk, or it would have never happened. And then another thing, I think, for somebody starting out that might not have a spear, or maybe they do, is getting involved in the community. I mean,
that was my next question. What are the things that you're directly involved with?
Yes. Yeah. So right when I graduated, I got involved with a running club. I've done several transactions from people that I've met there, and those weren't forced. It just happens organically from sharing something, the love of running and going consistently and getting to know each other. I am a huge pickleball player. Big pickleball fan, and that's really similar. That's something I do a couple times a week, and you meet so many people.
Where are you playing pickleball at? Is there a park or something?
Yes, Ron Parker in St Augustine Beach, and if anyone hasn't tried it, it is so recommended. It's all ages. It's much easier to learn than tennis or paddle. And it's just so much fun. So that's something I do a couple times a week. I'm constantly seeing the same people and meeting new people, and everyone on the courts knows that I'm a realtor. You know, it just comes up, and people ask me. It
comes up, or you wear a shirt that says Berkshire Hathaway, and they know exactly what. Yeah, you don't do it.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
but no,
you gotta tell the broker he needs to get some swag, some pickleball swag.
You're right. You're on to something.
Yes.
Yes. But no, I think if you're really aligned with being a realtor.
Oh, hold on a second. I just got a vision. Get pickleballs with your number on them.
That's actually very smart.
Yes. Because I imagine they wear out after a while, and you gotta get new ones.
You have to.
But you don't use new ones every game like you may in tennis.
Right.
Right.
I am gonna do that. And people, they really don't last that long. The pickleballs, they're easy to break. So.
I don't know what they cost, but to get them engraved with, Taylor Johnson, Berkshire Hathaway, and the phone number there, or your website or whatever, you're looking for real estate, you need to call me and just start handing those balls out.
Just give them out.
Yeah.
Yes. I always and I still like the clothing. Like, I would love a pickleball dress with.
What do you well, let's go into the other. So you're playing pickleball. What are some of the other things you're actively doing on a regular weekly, monthly basis?
Surfing. That's a big part of
There's a little
my
clique
culture.
that you
Absolutely. It's a pretty small community, that surf community, and I mean, that's the thing that is so awesome about real estate is it's really not a job for me. Like, it is my life. Everywhere I go, when I go and surf, I don't even have my phone on me. But when I'm in the water, the guys out there are asking me what's going on in the market.
You're sitting there waiting for the next wave, right?
Yes. Exactly. Same on the pickleball sideline. Same when we're running at Run Club. I mean, it is with you everywhere. And so for me, it is just being authentic to who I am. I feel like I'm a very friendly, bubbly person. I mean, I know everybody at my Publix who works there. They all know I'm in real estate. It just is talking to people and being genuine. It sounds so simple.
I think a lot of people, and I can be that way myself. I could be generally bashful until someone reaches out, and if you I wouldn't say anything to you, but if you came to me and said, "Hey, I'm Taylor, I'm in real estate, you need it," then oh, okay, great, but then we'd start a conversation. I think some people are afraid to approach people. They don't want, there's this great Kim Perrell, she's on LinkedIn, businesswoman's created some great business. She says, stop caring what other people think of you. Stop caring what other people. There's going to be people that like you. There's always going to be somebody who's envious or doesn't like, for whatever reason. I don't know. They don't like blondes, whatever it is. They don't, it's just that they got to go. Don't worry about them. Let them go on with their life. But you've got to. Most people do want to be approached and create a conversation. It's just human that we want to interact.
It's natural.
Yeah, there's many of these people going off in the woods and don't interact with anyone. Realize that's not good. It's not healthy, actually. So, I will put a plug in. I'm actually gonna put 2 plugs in here. Limelight Theater right now. The state pulled some funding back on them. They've had some staff change, but Limelight Theater is a treasure for St. Augustine. Have you ever been to Limelight Theater before?
One time.
One time. It is a totally volunteer actors. I think there's only like 4. It's a 501c. It's a treasure for St. Augustine. They need people over there. You want to go over there and interact with people. I could set you up with that. I have inside people there. They just need for anything. I mean, if you just want to go over and be an usher. So we can talk about that afterwards.
I'm
the other
glad
thing
you brought that up though, because that place is awesome, and
Yep.
I haven't been there in too long.
Yeah.
So good
Yeah.
reminder.
Yeah. And then I need to do a drop for my mug, which you have one in your gift bag there. I'm going to put here on the camera. This nice laser engraved from Remy Graphics.
Ooh.
And here's the
favorite.
thing. We can get in front of the camera correctly. Remy Graphics right there. If you want one-offs made for your closing something, you don't need to order a dozen. You don't need to order a gross of them. She'll do one-offs for you. So John and Sally, welcome to St. Augustine, and they'll hold on to that forever. So Remy Graphics, RemyGraphics.com. There.
Awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, Limelight is a treasure there. What do you think for you? I almost want to ask this in 2 different questions, because I want to know what your greatest challenge is for you personally. You knew what real estate was all about, so you're coming in with it. But when you in the last 4 years in the actual business, what do you think is your greatest challenge that you're like, man, I got to get better at that?
I think that I have 2. Okay.
Okay, that's good.
So the first is rolling with the ups and downs in real estate, because no matter how experienced you get and how successful you are, you're going to have some months that you absolutely crush and some months that you don't have a single transaction.
Right.
So it's this constant roller coaster,
or you
up
get
and
those
down.
days where you get 2 or 3 things, like a buyer backs out, another thing happened on another transaction, and all of a sudden, like, they come in threes, right? And you get 3 get those 3 hits in a short amount of time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's something I have gotten a lot better at, and I think I will continue to, and it's something I'm always going to have to keep myself in check about, because the ups and downs can be really hard, and you kind of freak out a little bit, and it's really, you just got to roll with the punches. And like you said, there's days where 3 crazy bad things happen, and I can't freak out. I can't get upset about it. I need to stay calm. We'll make it through and find a solution.
Yeah.
And I think just rolling with the ups and downs in real estate is something I'm still mastering.
What are some ways you have something that really sets you back? I mean, there's numerous things I'm sure that you've had happen in 4 years that, like, you feel like someone punched you in the gut. What do you do to kind of get yourself back in line?
I think the best thing you can do is just move on, because real estate is all about where you put your energy and how you balance your energy. And if you're spending your energy dwelling on the person that screwed you over, the deal that fell through or didn't go the way that you thought it was going to in your head, you're taking away from other business every moment that you're doing that. So I think just letting it go and moving it on and transferring that energy into new and better and more promising business is the only way to.
That's solid
to get
advice
past
right
it.
there. That's solid advice. Okay, you said there was 2 challenges you had. What was the other?
So the other thing, it's it's a little bit related, but I think I really struggle to turn real estate off. It's like I said, I go surfing. I'm talking about real estate. I don't even have my phone. I'm at a dinner party.
You're having withdrawals?
Yes. I'll be at a dinner party with my friends, and I get a phone call that's important, and I step out and take it. It's the second I wake up in the morning, I have messages that came in overnight. So the second I wake up, my mind is already on real estate. And luckily, I'm obsessed with it, so I don't mind it. But I do think it's healthy to turn your brain off of it, to be able to reset and recollect, to go after it 10 times harder.
How did you survive? How long were you gone? 10, 14 days?
Yeah, 14 days.
How did you survive out of the country?
Well, the first 8-9 days were really hard for me. Like, I felt so conflicted. I still felt that pressure to have my phone on me 24/7, and felt like I was really struggling to balance trying to be on vacation and being overseas while also trying to be the best realtor ever. And so it took me, the first half of the trip to really settle in. But by the second half of it, you are always there for the things that really matter, because there's different level of priorities. There's some things that will need my attention right now, right away, and I'll be there even on vacation to take care of it. But you know what? There are other things that you don't need me right now. I'll be back in 3 days, and we'll talk about it then. It'll be okay. Just finding that balance.
You just the whole time you're saying that, I'm thinking, obviously Alcohol Anonymous, just a realtor anonymous. We need to, because you and every realtor that's doing any business has that whole withdrawal. I mean, right now mortgages are slow, so the calls aren't coming in. But in 20, we're carrying our phone around. We're taking the calls. All we know if the real estate agents call, things are happening fast, and you gotta you become addicted to it. Was leading me into my next segment that I wanted to go into with you. It'll come to me. You were leading me there, and then of course I had to pull myself off on a tangent. On Realtor Anonymous. This is a hot topic, I think, all the time. This is any successful real estate agent has come to it. I went to a mastermind week and a half ago, almost 2 weeks ago, where they were talking about the topic was teams, but really when you went to the mastermind and the agents, you had some different types of team leaders in there that were talking about, but you have a lot of agents who've gotten successful, and you come to a point where you can't do it all. They're just in the a lot of people believe it's somewhere between the 5 and 7 million. You start doing north 7 to 9 million, you are maxed out. Just with the amount of business and all the things you guys got to do on every transaction, and run around making listers happy, making buyers happy, all those types of things. Have you reached that point? And then what have you done? Has Berkshire Hathaway helped you spin off some of your real estate chores? How have you done it to get a little more breathing time?
I have reached that point now. Officially. So I am still actively working through the right solution for that for me. But when I was on this trip, this was the first time I hired 2 people to help manage my business while I was away, so I could have some breathing room, because last year I went to Europe and I worked 8 hours every day. I was there, and the friend I was with wanted to kill me. So this year,
that friend didn't go with you this time.
It was a different friend this time. So I learned that through that experience. So this time I hired people here, and I don't have my exact solution yet, but it's something I'm actively working on, and I know it's something I need to get a system in place, because I can do more and a better job for everyone with having some of those items off of the plate.
So you've been talking about this, imagine, with your broker or other people, experienced agents, and you can find, what are some of the things that they're telling you you need to break down? Like some people say, you need to create a list, and these are things I like to do, I feel I'm good at. These are things I have to do, don't really care, you know, how good I am at it, but they just need to be done. Are you doing that kind of list? And then what are you thinking you're going to spin off?
So for me, my best strength is being in front of people. You know, I am negotiating. Any negotiations and working with my clients and that part of this business, I will never give up.
I don't think any agent really should give up, because that's what you're being paid for, right? Yeah, that's really what it comes down to.
Exactly. Yeah. So to me, that is my greatest strength. That is what's most important. The paperwork and admin piece of this job, I mean, that's hours every day, and that's probably not time well spent for me. So a recommendation I've gotten from both my broker and some agents in my office, some of our top producers, is getting a transaction coordinator. And it's pretty minimal for how much time that takes off my plate, allowing me to bring on more business or just take a breather to be able to do a better job in my day-to-day with managing that. And so I think a transaction coordinator who just kind of helps with the organization of a transaction, from scheduling your inspections to being the one to send paperwork to the title company, and alerting everyone of the appraisal coming in.
Because people discount, I think the average person would say, well, I've got all this work to do. I could pay this transaction coordinator to do some of this stuff and go play pickleball or go on the running club thing, or if they're, you know, what those types of things, because they discount those things thinking, well, I'm just extra. But really, as an agent, you're always marketing, because you're always having that conversation. You're living the life of a real estate agent, and you're doing what you love. So you love talking about it, and people love asking you about it and want to interact with you. But when you're out there playing pickleball, whether anyone talked to you that specific night or not about real estate, you are there all the time. And that is your keeping top of mind. Oh, Taylor's here tonight. Oh, yeah. And they know you're a real estate agent. They may not even talk to you. They just see you. And I think people discount that, because they're like, oh, I can pass on pickleball tonight because I'm going to go do paperwork.
Right.
Yeah, but not realizing that may have been the night when someone might have forgot, and another real estate agent walked in front of them, or their friend asked about it, and then they forgot because Taylor wasn't there to remind them Taylor's a real estate agent, even whether you said anything or not. They just see you. Oh, she's a real estate agent. I know that. Reminder. Boom. You know what I'm saying? I think people discount that part. Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. I am generating new business at running club, at pickleball, at surfing, at meeting people on the beach. When I'm doing admin paperwork, I'm not generating new business. No. You know, so I can understand.
And it's not like you showing up, or like the negotiation. That's when you're going to show your value, right? That paperwork, someone can do the paperwork, throw it at you. You can review it. Yeah, it looks good. Send it on. No one's judging. No one's saying, "Oh, this person does really good paperwork."
Right.
Other than maybe the other agent may criticize the way you did your contract. Other than that, the buyer and sellers and everybody else who's actually paying you does not see that.
Exactly. Yeah. And I could send someone in my place to do paperwork for me, but I couldn't send someone in my place to generate new business for me at the country club. You know, those are two different strengths, and being in front of people is what makes me me and makes me different from somebody else.
It just goes back to living that's the lifestyle of a real estate agent. And I think a lot of people discount those things that you're constantly, answering the phone. I mean, there's some agents that have gotten really good at it, or, I guess you can reach a level. I mean, I think probably a service is a little bit of an answering service. You can forward that phone calls to you, but I think a lot of us don't want to sit there and you want to nip it in the bud. That's just our natural thing. Someone's got a call. I've got to answer it because they're panicking. It's 8 o'clock at night. It is Saturday night and I'm at a cocktail party or with friends. They're calling me for a reason. And the one thing I've brought up a couple times, I think every agent should keep a journal of just like a lawyer does, like every time someone calls, because how many times at 8 o'clock at night, right, you're giving therapy calls, right, or marriage counseling, right?
100%.
Yes.
That would be a very full journal.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very important now with this whole NAR thing and everything. I think anyone paying attention that's not in real estate can clearly see they're downgrading the value of a real estate agent, not seeing what's below the surface and all the things that you do behind the scenes that your buyer or seller doesn't even see that you're doing in discounting. What surprised you about you knew about real estate, but since you've actually been actively your own agent, has anything surprised you? Or even St. Augustine, because I imagine you've probably, besides the in the attic.
Yes, things have.
Or you learned something about yourself that you didn't know.
Have definitely surprised me. I think that the level of stress that this job can bring was surprising. I mean, I get very emotionally involved with these people I'm working with, and it's a great strength because I care so much, and no one I work with doubts how much I care. But there's a lot of stress that comes with that emotional attachment to the people that you're working with, to the properties that you're buying and selling. And, it was just, I watched my dad and grandpa generate such a big business, and it's not easy. I think an outsider looking in and, with this whole NAR discussion, like you said, is kind of undervaluing what a realtor really does. And until you do it, you have no idea what little things that are behind the scenes that go into what this role is every single day. So I think that this job can be really hard, and that's what makes it really rewarding at the same time.
Yeah.
But it was, I knew it was going to be that way, but it was even more than what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else has surprised me, because I know there's been a lot along the way.
Have you learned anything about yourself? Did it get you out of any comfort zones?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's gotten me out of my comfort zone in every way. I mean, in real estate, you have to have a lot of tough conversations. You're telling people things they don't want to hear.
Give me a story. I want a story on that. You got to have something that came right out of your mind. A tough conversation. Tell me a tough conversation that you've had that you probably sat in the car a few minutes to like, how am I going to present this?
Yeah. Gosh, I want to think of a specific example, because I think conversations like that happen regularly. I mean, from telling sellers that in a nice way they're out of their mind and we're not going to be able to sell it for the number that they came in anticipating.
Because some of these homes are unique, especially in St. Augustine. You're out on the beach. You don't know what someone's willing to spend for that, right? It's got a certain angle, maybe the yard's a little bit, maybe the driveway's a little bit bigger. Every one of those houses is so different. How old it is, when it's been renovated, there's so many different, it's not like selling in these subdivisions, because the houses were all built relatively the same time. There might be a handful of models in any particular subdivision, but down at the beach, every one of them's unique. What is that house worth, right? Or could get. You don't know.
And, deals fall through sometimes, and having those conversations are never fun. And people get pissed off and angry.
Have you ever had to fire? Have you fired a customer yet?
I have.
Yeah.
I have.
A buyer or seller?
Buyer and a seller.
Oh.
One buyer, one seller.
Because they were the buyer having you look everywhere around town, can't make up their mind of actually what they want.
Yeah. And, this buyer in particular that I'm thinking about was a little inappropriate, I think, towards me. And I think a lot of women in real estate experience that at one point or another in their career. And then the seller that I went separate ways with was just completely unreasonable, did not treat me well, did not treat prospect customers well, and took all the joy. I don't think this job is butterflies and rainbows all the time, but I do love what I do.
Yeah.
And if I can't enjoy working with you, I'm at the point where I don't have to. Rather not.
You tipped on something there, the inappropriateness. So what do you do as other agents listening? Because I don't think enough agents think about the safety enough. And I don't know if you saw the episode, but if you want to go back, a classmate of mine, James Hamilton, Hamilton security consultant, he worked for the FBI for 17 years. And then Gavin DeBecker, who wrote The Gift of Fear. If you've never read that book, I highly recommend that you do. He would. His entire 30-year career in law enforcement is about personal protection. And he goes in, and we talked about, obviously, real estate agents and different things they can do to protect themselves. What are some of the things that you're doing that one of your girlfriends got involved, or another young agent, like yourself, you guys get calls at 5:00 in the evening, and it's like, hey, it's summertime. It's going to be light out till 8. Come over and show me this house. And you haven't actually met this person. This stuff happens. How do you handle that?
So, there's a lot of different things you can do to be protected. Like, I have a couple of people that have my location. If I am showing a property and I've never met this person, at least one person will know what time and where I'll be and who I'm meeting. I think that's just a good practice.
So when that person calls you, do you ask them, hey, can you send me over a copy of your driver's license? Or when you say know who you're meeting, how do you get that information?
So I use the app Forewarn, which... Are you familiar with that? Yep. So that I look up, I've never met someone without looking up their number on Forewarn, which gives me their background and tells me, any history they might have, and tells me
Have
their
you pulled up someone you don't want to meet yet?
I have, yeah. I had one, yeah.
Yeah.
And I did meet still, but I took extra precaution because of it. So I think doing that background check, letting someone know where you're going to be and who you're meeting and what property address, just so someone else knows where you are.
Yeah.
I always keep pepper spray on me. Never had to use it, but it's something that just makes me feel like an extra layer of protection there. And then I think as a woman, just being very aware of your surroundings. No matter who I'm with, I never like to be boxed in. I leave doors open. I like to be facing outwards because it has to be something you're thinking about because you never know.
Well, because you can easily be stalked and they know where you're at.
And your information's so easy to find online and your pictures.
Your phone number, all that kind of stuff. And obviously, hey, I want to buy real estate and you want to sell it. So you're going to run out there. But I don't think Forewarn is, you have to be using it. And obviously being a Florida realtor, it's provided for you there through that. You must be using that. It's something you need to be thinking about all the time. I think I would suggest go back, and anyone listening to this, go back to my interview with my college classmate, James, because this is really something he's seriously passionate about. He speaks all nationally about it, all these conferences and so forth. And we talked about, how you go into a house. Do you go in front of don't walk in front of your customer, or especially telltale signs. If they're in a rush. I think one of the things that Gift of Fear. The bottom line, it is a long book. So if you audible, but Gavin DeBecker is known. And he talks about because he interviews all these people who've been attacked, right? And they go through these emotional states, like, I really didn't feel comfortable. That right away,
listen to that.
You've got to listen to your internal instincts, and women are better at it than men, just naturally because of that.
But like you said, from these people that have been attacked, it's so easy to have that feeling and convince yourself, but they have $1 million budget.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's fine. I don't know them. You kind of.
I don't want to be racist. I don't want to be biased. I don't want to be this or that. We go through all those. Yeah.
But if you have that feeling, it's there for a reason, and it's always better to be safe than sorry.
Yep.
There's no amount of money that's worth the risk of
Right.
your safety or well-being.
Well, I imagine like you took extra precautions. Bring along a friend. Say, hey, I'm training this other agent. They're shadowing me. What are they going to say?
Right.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Bring somebody else. And another thing is too, which is it's good for business, but it's also good for safety, is I spend a lot of time investigating somebody before. You know, it's not like I just get a call and they're like, hey, oh my gosh, we saw this property. We're only in town today. Can we see it in 1 hour? You know, we get those calls. But I say, yeah, sure, we can make that work. But here's my 20 questions for you before we get there. Because A, I don't want to waste my time. And B, it's not safe for me to meet you with no context as to who you are or what your plan is and where you're coming from and what your story is.
Right.
So I think doing that investigation up front on that very first call is really important too.
Right. And now with the whole NAR thing and they want to the buyer consultation, you have an excuse.
Right.
So you can throw in those other questions. I want to finish with this. We didn't really talk about your marketing, other than you personally, like playing pickleball. You're in the surfing. You're running. You're doing those other things. What do you do though? Now you have 4 years of customers. You've got imagine people that haven't been customers yet, but you went to Flagler for 4 years. You've created friends and associates all around St. Augustine. What do you do to stay top of mind with them?
So I think for my generation in particular, I mean, now everybody, but is social media. And social media does not come naturally to me at all. It's not comfortable for me.
Well, you can go on your Facebook, and I believe there are high school pictures in there. You can see Taylor's high school photos on her Facebook.
Oh, gosh. I might delete them before you get there. But, I think that is a great way to stay connected with people and top of mind, like you were talking about earlier. And even if it's uncomfortable to be on video and posting about all your success, it doesn't come naturally to me at all, but it is important, and people need to see what you're doing in your business and who you are as Taylor, as a realtor, and who I am as a person as well. So social media is great. I'm still very involved with Flagler College. I speak in a couple classes there. I know the professors. I'm involved with the alumni groups. That's a good one. Great marketing space for me to stay connected. I'm a member at Marsh Creek Country Club, where I play tennis, and that's a great way to stay connected with the community as well.
Well, I think would you agree from the social media standpoint, you're not out there trying to be Mr. Beast. You're not trying to own Instagram or YouTube or any of the other. You just want, for the most part, your friends and family to see you on a regular basis doing your business.
Right. Exactly. And, there's a lot of realtors that are licensed, and they might not be generating that much business. So for me, it's important that people know I'm not just a licensed realtor, but I'm out here producing and selling quite a bit of homes. So the experience is there.
Yeah, because there's no doubt, I think probably one of the worst things that can happen, to you or to me, is that someone we know, although I've accepted being from a financial side, because there's family that won't do business with me. They don't say that, but I know, and I don't say nothing. But there's others that will, without even question. There's friends that will do business with me, because I'm seeing, their pains and their, where they're spending their credit cards and things like that. So it's a little different. For you, nothing can rip your heart out than to have someone, that you might play pickleball with or play tennis with a lot, and then they go use someone else because they lost contact with you for a little bit and forgot that you're still doing real estate.
Right. Yeah. I never want to lose a potential customer because they didn't know I was a realtor.
Right.
So I will go out of my way to make sure everyone knows that that's what I do, and it's easy because that's what I'm doing all the time every day anyway.
And you love it.
Yes.
I'm concluding with that. Is there anything you'd like to add? Anything you'd like to say?
I just thank you for doing this.
Yes.
And I feel really grateful. You know, like one thing I've noticed in others my age is at 26 years old, there's a lot of bebopping around to different careers and still finding what somebody is aligned with. And every day I just feel so lucky that I was able to find that right out of school.
Yeah.
And haven't questioned it.
Oh, no
a
doubt.
day
I am
since.
totally jealous of Bobby because it took me probably till I was in my 30s before I figured it out.
Which is normal, though.
Yeah.
Which is totally normal.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know?
But you found your groove.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do what you love.
Exactly. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.